Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, a special recruiting edition as Fitz and Cole's breakdown, as of this recording, the 7 commitments. And now, Cole, we recognize as we do this on Tuesday, something could happen at any moment.
Literally any moment. We could be recording this and there could be a new commitment. Who knows what's going to happen? But there are 7 that are currently committed, so we might as well talk about it.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. And if we miss out on one, we'll get them later. But we're going to try to do this throughout the recruiting cycle. On occasion, break down what they've got and kind of establish a theme of that section of recruiting. And this will be offensive line. They've got 7 total commitments as of this recording. 4 of them are offensive linemen, and I find that very intriguing. It appears K-State is trying to redefine that room, and maybe Brian Lepak has his own thoughts on what it should take to play offensive line at K-State. I don't know. We'll get into that. But before we start that, let's go take a quick review of the other guys, the 3 other guys, if I can find them here. And here's our first one. I like it when it's a nice A name. You can just start the alphabet right there. Dejon Ackerson. He's a linebacker. Cole Carmody. Give me your quick thoughts on him.
Well, the man who goes by DJ, first of all, he's a great kid. And that's the one thing that I think when doing this, I get to see is I get to establish relationships with these kids. And DJ, he's from Oklahoma City, as you guys can see right there up on the screen, Putnam High School. It is more of a city high school. So it says Oklahoma City. He's from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma State was on him very hard, but K-State established pretty early on that they were going to be the favorite. You're going to notice the theme with Brian Lepak. Well, the Oklahoma ties certainly don't hurt there. Brian Lepak and Matt Wells, although he was a defensive player, both had pretty big parts in this recruitment. But to me, the thing that stands out about DJ Ackerson is his ability as an outside linebacker. And he's listed at 6'1", 190. He plays a little inside, plays a little outside. I look at him as a guy to kind of be like Des Purnell to play that outside linebacker spot. There has been some folks who, if you remember, think back to a few years ago, Fitz, a guy who you actually went to go watch play high school football, and Michael Boganowski from Junction City. There's been some folks to kind of throw that comparison around a little bit. He plays with that same kind of tenacity. He plays with that same kind of fire. He likes to hit people, and he might be a nice kid off the field, but on the field, he really, really likes to lay the wood and absorb that contact. So I would say a hard-hitting linebacker, probably going to play outside. But again, K-State stacks these linebackers. It feels like every year they have these linebackers who they just come in, and then within 2 years they're ready to play. I mean, the same thing happened with Austin Romaine. You know, I would expect to see 1 or 2 of those linebackers this year make an impact that are true freshmen. So DJ Ackerson is going to be another one of those guys who's not going to take long for him to adjust to the system.
The little Boganowski thing worked out really well for me because I went to see a recruit. He signed with someone else, and I'm not sure anyone wants me to leave the house again.
It worked out.
Yeah. So I'll just let you guys do that. Next up, Brandon Ford, a corner out of Crowley, Texas. Give me your thoughts.
Well, Brandon Ford committed to K-State all the way back in October. And there was a lot of people who were wondering, is he still committed? Is he going to end up on campus? There was kind of some questions about Brandon Ford, but he did take his official visit this past weekend. And the one thing about K-State is when they get kids on campus, they tend to lock them down. And Brandon Ford tweeted out and put on Instagram that he was shutting down his recruitment officially. So anticipate to see Brandon Ford in purple next year. Ranked one of the higher cornerbacks in the state of Texas. Amongst people who follow that high school football very closely. He is kind of, I guess you could say, on the shorter side, around the 5'10" mark, but one of those guys who's been committed to Kansas State for quite some time. I know Van Malone really likes what they're getting in Brandon Ford, but he's not going to be the only corner. I would look at him as maybe more of a nickel guy who can play and cover guys on the inside. Speed is really the one thing that sticks out on tape with Brandon Ford, but again, K-State, you're going to see another theme here, Texas. And he's another one of those guys. I mean, they established early on down in the state of Texas that they were going to be major players in this cycle. That's going to continue. But Brandon Ford was the first commit all the way back in October of last year. And seems to be sticking it all the way through up until next fall.
Man, here we go. Tanner West, wide receiver. I'm very interested in this one. Another kid out of Texas.
He's listed as a wide receiver. He plays some running back. He plays some Wildcat quarterback. Will likely be coming to Kansas State as a running back from everything that I've been told. Tanner West, again, I struggled with the comparison here, Fitz, because he goes to Katy Jordan in Fulshear, Texas, which is one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the Houston area down there. I've struggled with some comparisons here because if you watch his tape, you see him line up in the slot, you see him line up at quarterback, you see him line up at running back, and there's just not a lot of guys who do that in high school football, especially down there in Texas. Not a lot of guys who do that in college, if anybody at all. But I see him run the ball, and he kind of reminds me of a DJ Giddens. He's kind of a bigger back, 6 foot, 185 pounds right now. DJ was obviously a little bit bigger than that, but I see his ability to get downhill. I see his ability to make one cut and then get downhill into the hole. Maybe not so much a power back, but he does have a little bit of DJ Giddens in his game. I really think they're going to use him on third down. When he comes to K-State, that's going to be what really gets him onto the field. Think about a Joe Jackson. What made him so good in that bowl game was his ability to catch a ball out of the backfield. If you can do that under Brian Anderson, you're going to see the field pretty early. And he didn't really have a lot of big time offers, which is one of the first guys who hasn't garnered those big time offers that's ended up committing to Kansas State so far. But I really like his game, and the more I watch his tape, the more excited I get for him. I think he might be a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, sometimes you need that Swiss Army knife, the guy that can come in the game, and the defense and the coaches on the other team don't exactly know what he's going to do. Is he going to line up a receiver, running back, or be the Wildcat? I'm not sure with Avery Johnson you need a Wildcat, but it could be something they want to go to in a third down or something to not have their quarterback take the hits. He is very intriguing. So let's move on to the 4 offensive linemen because, wow, Brian Lepak, we just calm down. Kansas State's new offensive line coach is remaking this room in his image of what he feels like he should have. And let's take them alphabetically. LaMarcus Barber, this kid is an interior offensive lineman. I almost think he might be a guard, but Chris Kleiman said something very interesting to me as an aside one day, that every center they've had on this team has been a walk-on since he arrived. And I'm like, they're going to recruit a center. That's what he's telling me. They're going to go try to find one. Is this him? He's awfully big for center.
It could be. It could be. I love LaMarcus Barber's game. And last year, obviously, I coached high school football, and we played against Mill Valley. And I remember this offensive lineman who was just kicking everybody's butt. I'm like, who is this guy? And, come to find out it was LaMarcus Barber. It makes a lot of sense. He's a wrestler, Fitz. And anytime you have guys who are wrestlers, they tend to translate over onto both the offensive and the defensive lines. But for LaMarcus Barber, it is all about his run blocking ability. And that's the two themes that we're going to see with both inside guys, is their ability as not only pullers, but also as just first step off the ball. I thought LaMarcus Barber was one of the best offensive linemen that we played against this year. I think he's ranked as the 14th best player in the state of Kansas, but that's not going to last long. LaMarcus Barber is a butt kicker, and he's mean and he's nasty, and all the good ways you describe offensive lineman is what Barber is. But I look at it, Fitz, and I said, you know what? People want to talk about K-State recruiting outside of the state. Well, this is a guy who's inside of the state. And very rarely do we say K-State is picking up an under-the-radar in-state recruit. I'm not saying that he is a top 5 player in the state, but there are some linemen who are ranked ahead of him who I'm not necessarily sure should be. But I think this year, after his senior film really starts to come out, Barber is going to shoot up the boards. I can see him ending as a 4-star. Very similar to what happened with Gus Hawkins, also from Mill Valley. Started as a middle 3-star, ended as a 4-star, one of the best tackles in the country. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Barber, but I would not be shocked to see his rating go up.
God, I love those wrestlers. Balance, leverage, how to use your hands, all of it. Every skill a wrestler has makes an offensive lineman better.
And before we go on to the next one, Fitz, here with Barber, another note is he's actually from Chapman. So if you are living in Manhattan or in the surrounding areas, Chapman, 35 minutes west of town. He's from Chapman. Him and his family relocated out here to Shawnee after his freshman year of high school. So he's still adjusting to the Sunflower League after spending a year at Chapman. So he's actually not from Kansas City. He's from Chapman. Did not grow up a K-State fan necessarily, but he does have a lot of family ties within the area.
I like him. He played for the Irish.
That's right.
Okay. Here we go. The next one. There we go. That was kind of slow. Keegan Collins. Look, I got to say it. It's the best hair so far.
It is.
But here we go, Cole. 6'6", 275. It looks like really tall guys, and they've got some from previous classes, with range and athleticism are what Brian Lepak is zeroing in on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what Keegan Collins brings is the athleticism. That's the one thing I noticed immediately. I sit here and I watch a lot of tape. That's kind of part of the job. But I also you start to see the differences in offensive linemen. You can kind of start to project what this guy's going to look like in 2 years, what this guy's going to look like in 2 years. And when I see Keegan Collins right now, he's so athletic. Like he is a true 6'6". I don't know if he's 275, but he is a true 6'6". And his ability to move to me sticks out the most. He's not the greatest pass set blocker in the world, but I think because of his athleticism, that's going to get better. That's the one thing that you can coach that I think a lot of people maybe don't understand is that it's very hard to teach run blocking. You can teach run blocking form, you can teach technique, but it's very hard to just turn somebody into a butt kicker. You can't just flip the switch and say, okay, you were kind of soft, now you're mean. No, but you can teach someone how to pass block. You can give them tips and tricks. And I think that's what they're banking on with Collins. And you know how it is, Fitz. It's so hard to expect these tackles to come in and play within the first 2 years because of how good, these edge rushers are in the Big 12 and in Division I football. So, I don't think Keegan Collins is going to come in and play. I think he'll redshirt. I think he'll probably have to take another year to adjust to the system. But, within 2 years, it wouldn't shock me to see him starting because I think his athleticism really, really helps his upside.
I'm always amazed when a high school kid, particularly at a program like Texas, can come in and start at tackle. What was this kid like in high school football if he's capable of that? He probably left like bodies every game, just laying on the field crying for mommy.
Well, Keegan Collins, West Texas, Fitz. I know you're a big Paramount Plus guy. And what's the field, the show about all the West Texas?
Yellowstone?
No, not Yellowstone, not Oil Man. Landman.
Landman. I'm sorry, I just confused my states. That's Montana.
Yes.
Wyoming up there.
He's Landman country.
Well, that's great music out there. That's what I relate that to. Stillwater and Lubbock are the capitals of red dirt and Texas country. On we go. Oliver Miller. Just not enough guys named Oliver. Again, 6'6", 300 pounds, a Colorado kid. Give me your thoughts.
He has the capability to play both tackle and guard, which I think is really, really big coming into Kansas State. Again, beat out some bigger programs for Oliver Miller. Wasn't exactly a guy who I think we were tracking for a commitment when it happened, but after Brian Lepak went out there, he was sold. And that's going to be another common theme that we've been talking about, but Brian Lepak on the recruiting trail has been absolutely crushing it. And with Oliver Miller, I think it's pretty simple. I think they're going to try him at tackle. And if it becomes clear that maybe he's not as big as they want, which is crazy to say at 6'6", 300 pounds, not as big. But if he's not as big, if he's not as athletic, if he's not as long, really what we're talking about here is length. If he's not as long as what they like, then he has the capability to go down inside and play some guard. He's played some guard in high school. He's played some tackle in high school. We have him listed. We had him listed as an interior offensive lineman. He is going to come in as a tackle with the capability to play guard. I like his game. I probably like Collins just a little bit more, but Oliver Miller, the more I watch his tape, the more I can see the vision with this guy. His body is more physically ready than Collins is right now. I think Collins is a little bit more athletically gifted, maybe has a little bit better upside, but Oliver Miller has a chance. Again, another one of those guys. They've got their 2 tackles. They got their interior offensive lineman with Barber. We're going to talk about another interior offensive lineman. You can see the ideas of how they're starting to form this line. It's big, it's mean, it's physical, and it's very run heavy.
Now, I don't want to say save the best for last, but certainly save my favorite for last of the 7 so far. Oh my goodness. Justin Morales, offensive tackle, 6'4", what does that say? 265. He's a little bit light right now. Cole, we talk about some offensive linemen being violent. This kid will tear your freaking head off. I love him. He's a pit bull. I don't care what his stars are. The upside here just really jumps out at me.
It jumped out at me too, Fitz. And when I watched his tape for the first time and I saw this kid was unrated, I immediately texted someone and said, you have to evaluate this kid because he is going to blow up. And when K-State offered him, there wasn't anybody else who was on him. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as that K-State offer comes in, then these other schools start to roll in. And then these other visits start to get set up. And I'll be honest, I really thought that, Morales might look somewhere else. K-State was in on a lot of other offensive linemen. I think they had always kind of circled in on Morales, but they thought that it was going to be tough. And he had, I want to say, 4 other visits scheduled. Well, he comes up to Manhattan and he doesn't end up taking any other visits because he falls in love with this offensive staff. He falls in love with the vision. And you're right. He might end up being my favorite recruit. He's nasty. Again, I've said that multiple times. I literally wrote that. I don't think I've ever written that. I can't even speak now. I don't think I've ever put that in words in an article about a recruit before, calling them nasty in an official piece of content. But here we are getting to that point with Justin Morales. I had my dad, he loves this recruiting stuff too. He just loves high school football. And so he's an old offensive line guy. I sent him his tape and I said, you need to watch this kid. And he said, wow, how would you describe him? And I used 2 words that I can't say on any publication.
No, that's right.
But it is. And so whatever those 2 words are, you can imagine he's my favorite. And I am really excited to see him play because his ability right now, he plays tackle. I think he'll come and probably play guard. But another one of those guys, Fitz, who else played guard who could also play tackle is Cooper Beebe. I'm not saying that Justin Morales is Cooper Beebe, but this guy's mean. This guy's nasty. His feet are incredibly quick. And you go watch his highlights. Every single block, he is letting that poor defender, taste what the turf feels like. And anytime you can do that, you're doing something right.
I'll just say that description would cause us to need to apologize to moms.
Yes. Yes, that's good.
It's 100% accurate. I love the kid. I love him. Needs a little more physical development, but that attitude's going to carry him a long ways. Okay, Cole, let me put you on the spot. At 7 recruits right now, commitments. Kansas State is very active. We think as we record this, they might get another one. So now I'm going to put you on the spot. I assume you don't have any crystal balls out there right now that are unfulfilled.
Well, there's one.
One?
There is one.
Okay, who's next?
Well, I don't know if he's necessarily next, but Kingston Hall is the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. I had crystal balled him probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He plays running back and defensive tackle. That's how athletic he is.
Of course.
So
natural combination.
Yeah. So I think they really want him. We'll see if they end up getting him. I feel pretty confident, not the most confident in the world. Baylor has jumped in as of late, but that's one guy. But another round of official visitors are getting set for this weekend. And there is some candidates that make you go, oh, they can get that guy.
It's going to be interesting. Of course, all that coverage will be at GoPowercat.com. If you're not subscribing, 60% off right now at GoPowercat. Go take advantage of that and get all the VIP recruiting access that is available from Cole and the young guys. How are the young guys doing? They holding up their end of the bargain?
They're holding up their end of the bargain. They're a little bit more descriptive in their writing. I feel like I use the same words. They come in and liven things up a little bit.
Well, you just stick with the word nasty, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Here we go.
Which ironically, Cole, I've never looked at your dating profile, but is that word used on that dating profile?
No comment. That's only for Ryan Gilbert.
Okay. That's it for this special recruiting podcast. Again, we're on a special at GoPowercat. Go check that out. That's it from Cole and Fitz, and we appreciate you watching, listening, or if this was on Braille, feeling us. That got weird.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.